I have seen what happens with narcissists when they see you becoming stronger and stronger in a relationship. Whether it's at the end of a relationship or during that relationship, maybe it's that you're changing, maybe it's that you're evolving, maybe it's that you started off in one way and you're becoming a different way in the relationship, or maybe it's kind of toward the end of that relationship. You go through that love bomb to value discard, and you're kind of at that discard phase, and now you're becoming that strong version. And so you are evolving into a much more powerful version of yourself because you are becoming powerful in this process. So it could be one or the other, but either way, you are finding your voice and you are now changing up that dynamic, which is a good thing in a lot of ways. But what's going to happen? What's going to happen now that the narcissist is seeing you as strong? Here's what they're going to do. Okay. You've got to remember that narcissist is actually way more afraid of you than you are of them to begin with. Now, they attached themselves to you at the beginning because you were strong many times. Many times you actually embodied a lot of the characteristics that they wanted to see, that they wanted to have. They were actually attracted to that in you, whether it was a business relationship or a personal relationship or a friendship or anything. But then things started to shift, and they wanted to actually devalue you, and they wanted to actually control you and make you feel small, because that actually makes them feel more powerful, to be able to control and devalue and degrade somebody who they see as powerful, right? I mean, what's the value in diminishing or devaluing somebody who is like the clearance rack person? There's no value in that, right? So I want you to remember that's the initial premise of it in the first place. They don't attach themselves to people that have no value. Where's the value in that? Even though they diminish you and they try to make you feel small and all of those things, it's all because that's the game. But when you're starting to change that dynamic in the relationship, they don't like it. They don't want it. It's sort of like, a 2-year-old having a tantrum. They want things to stay the same when a 2-year-old is supposed to, get off the bottle. And so the parents start taking that bottle away from them. The 2-year-old is like, no, I want my bottle. I want my bottle. Give it back. Give it back. And the parents are like, maybe we should just let them have it. If parents aren't strong, then they just think, let me just give it back to them because I can't stand the screaming. I don't want to have to deal with it. And so the 2-year-old just thinks, let me just scream louder. Let me just scream longer. Let me kick my heels on the floor. Let me make a super big, huge, scene over here. And then my parents will have to give in. That's kind of what the narcissist is doing. They think, I will make more of a scene. I will make it worse for them. But they do it in obviously way worse ways a lot of the times, because, you have, slighted them. You have done something that has caused their narcissistic injury to be triggered. And so that narcissistic rage comes flying out and it becomes a threat to them. They're going to start to worry. Maybe you're going to start to think about abandoning them or leaving them, which is, of course, their worst fear. They don't ever want you to leave them. They don't want you to abandon them, even though they may even start to say things like, especially if you are in a personal relationship with them, they may even start to say things like, you should leave, you should divorce me, I don't want you anymore. They may even say things like that, or their need for control might become more heightened than ever. They may start to follow you. They may start to accuse you of cheating. They may start to accuse you of being a liar. Their need for asserting their will against you is becoming more and more and more because they're concerned about you becoming too strong, so they need to assert and show you that they are the stronger one, that they have the power over you. They may get worse and worse, but this is when you need to decide that you need to walk away, because a lot of times when this happens, if you draw that line in the sand, if you create boundaries, if you say, I'm walking away, they may actually say, oh my God, don't do that. I will do what you want or whatever. But to be honest with you, this is not a person who's healthy. This is not a person that you need to be in relationship with. This is not a good person for you. This is where you need to start drawing boundaries for yourself. You actually teach people how to treat you. This is not a way of life for you. Life is short. You think that it's long, depending on how old you are, but it is short. When you add in how much time you spend sleeping, doing laundry, making dinner, all of the drudgery of life, it is so short and it will fly by so much faster than you think. And you want to spend time in joy, and you want to spend time with people who are going to raise your vibrational level, and not with people who are going to be bringing you down and trying to diminish you and trying to make you feel small, because you were not meant for that. You were meant to be living at your highest level, the highest level at which God or the universe or whatever highest power that you believe in created you to be. And when somebody is trying to tear you down and not believe in you, then that is not the person that you need to have in your space. Narcissist sees you as being too strong. They become more and more agitated, and the gaslighting becomes worse than ever. They call you names, and they say that things happened that didn't happen, and they say that they told you things that they didn't tell you, or they say that you said things that didn't happen, and it becomes worse and worse and worse, and the accusations become worse and worse and worse. They may even start hacking into your phone, hacking into your computer. They're looking for signs of things to accuse you of things. They may become more and more unglued. That is not a way of life. And that is not who you were born to be, who you were meant to be. You were meant to live at your highest purpose. Your soul knows, and you'll start to feel that inside of you. And that is when you need to know that it is time to move on, time to move on, time to walk away. So I want you to put that in the comments right now. I'm walking away. Walking away, because that is what it is time for. It is time to walk away. It is time to live at your highest level, at your highest level of yourself, your highest level of your own power, at the highest level of your soul. And I know it is hard. It's so hard to make that decision, especially, if you've been with a person for a long time, especially if you're feeling bonded to that person, but maybe the first step is just to say, I'm going to create some boundaries for myself. And you're going to say, I know that I'm worth being treated better. So I'm at least going to draw a line in the sand, and say, you have to speak to me in a certain way. And that's the first level. That's my first boundary, and we'll start there. Maybe that's where you start, and then start, after a month or two, go to the next line. But a little bit through baby steps. Step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free, because you're kind of righting the ship, powering it, turning around, walking forward, going a different direction, 180 degrees, so that you can power forward face this person, and then eventually break free and walk away. Let's talk about the 2 secrets narcissists don't want you to know. So they have 2 selves. Let me explain something. Narcissists were created out of trauma. They were not born that way. It's not a DNA thing. It's not like they come into the world this way. We come into the world feeling whole. We come into the world feeling like pretty good. Like, I think I'm a pretty good human. I think I'm a good person. We feel good inside. It's when things start happening to us that we start reacting to the world and feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not so great. Maybe there is something wrong with me. And that happens to all of us, by the way. We all have traumas and triggers and insecurities and feelings of doubt. None of us are immune from that. I wish we were. Certainly I'm not. Those of us who are out there that say we're not, those are the narcissists, by the way. All of us have our moments of that. But what happens is with narcissists is that during their childhood, they were exposed to trauma on a regular basis. Something happened to them that caused them to constantly be in survival mode on a regular basis, that constantly caused them to feel like they were having to be in that fight or flight, feeling. And when you're in fight or flight, our brains emit chemicals. Our brains emit, epinephrine, things like that, that cause us to be able to be stronger, faster, better, so that we can fight or fly, right? So that's where the fight or flight comes from. And when we're children, and this happens on a regular basis, causes the brain to actually have arrested development in the limbic system part of our brain. And then what happens as you get older is that part of the brain then doesn't develop properly. So then the prefrontal cortex part of the brain, other parts of the brain, of course, we grow up and the logic part of the brain is, there. But what happens is, with narcissists, when they are presented with certain stimuli, which makes them feel like they need to survive, or they feel like where they're again being put in situations which are similar to those situations that made them feel defensive or made them feel like they were, potentially in danger, then that narcissistic injury gets triggered. So, when does that happen to them? Well, it could be any kind of situation, but a lot of times it's when they feel exposed. It's when they feel somebody has, slighted them in some way. Somebody has, outed them or, caused them to feel less in a situation or whatever it is. Then that narcissistic injury gets triggered. That narcissistic rage comes flying out. That limbic system of the brain gets activated, and here comes that cage. It's almost like a caged animal. It's almost like that part of them, that survival part of them, comes out, and they literally cannot help themselves, and they see black and white. It's like that other part of their brain is shut off, and they only see that at that moment. They cannot see the good anymore. They only see the bad. And, so there they are. But the 2 secrets they don't want you to know are that they have these 2 selves. What happened when all of this was taking place as children is they almost split into 2. They have this true self, which was the scared little self that they hide away, which is almost like a shriveled, little, version of themselves that's hidden, it's weak. And then there's the false self, the one that they show the world. And yeah, we all sort of have this somewhat of a dichotomy like that, but they really have a dichotomy. For them, it's a very much of a dichotomy. So those are the two secrets. They've got this true self and then the false self that they show the world. And that true self is never to be seen by anyone ever. And that false self is the one that they must protect at any cost. And, that's why they do not ever want to be exposed. That's why they must layer on that narcissistic supply from external sources by adulation, having the prestigious friends, the prestigious houses, the money, the power, the control. All of those things have to come from external sources, but they feel totally and completely empty inside. And it's that black hole that can never be filled. And they feel like they're desperate for air, starving inside, because they just feel like they can never fill that black hole that's inside of them, that true self that they're hiding away, that scared little self. And that's why I say to you all the time that they're way more afraid of you than you are of them, because that true self that's inside of them is super scared. The problem is that everything they do is transactional. Everything they do is a manipulation. Everything they do comes from that place of fear, comes from that place of manipulation, comes from that place of scared self, that survival self. So really, that's secret number 2, is that everything they do is a manipulation. Everything they do is transactional, because they feel like they have to come from that place. They're in survival mode all the time. And they think that you are too. That's the sad thing. They don't really trust that anyone else comes from any place other than that place. They don't trust anyone. They really do believe that everyone has an agenda, that everyone wants something from them, that no one is truly good, so they don't mind taking from other people, because they really think that everyone's out for their chips too, that it's a dog eat dog world. They think that it's like that. And it's very sad. If you agree with me, it's so sad. Just put "so sad" in the comments, because it is so sad. But that doesn't mean that you have to be in that space. You can't fix it. You can't heal it. When you go to help them, they're just going to drag you into that quicksand with them. It's not going to help. It's not going to help. You're going to just drown. You're just going to drown along with them. So what you need to do is move on.
Now, let's talk about whether narcissists are stupid or clever. It's a very complicated question. And it was actually posed to me during a dinner with some friends. And my friend is a psychologist, and she's worked with a lot of narcissists, or people who have, more so people who have been victims or targets of narcissists and had to deal with the trauma of it and try to heal from it. And so it was a question that I decided to sort of research and dig into a little bit, because I was kind of curious about the answer myself. So one of the things for sure about narcissists is that they're very, very good at reading people. They are masters at reading people and reading their emotions and reading what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they want, what they don't want, because it's really, really critical for them to be able to do that so that they can determine if you are going to be a good source of supply for them. And that narcissistic supply is the most important part of what it is that they're looking for from anybody. Every single person that they look at is going to be viewed in terms of what kind of supply can you give to me? And this includes, their children, unfortunately. I've known a lot of adults who've been victims of their parents being narcissists, which is no fun, and it's really, really hard to get over. So I just decided I'm going to look into this because I know that they're really, really good at reading people and manipulating people. So one of the things that I learned actually by reading a blog from a narcissist was the reason why, so what she said in this particular blog was the reason why she was really good at reading people was because she had to learn how to read her own parents who were both narcissists. And as a child, 5, 6, 7 years old, is this a good time to talk to them? Is it not? Is this a good time to ask them for something? Is it not? Am I going to get yelled at right now? Am I not? What kind of mood are they in? So they were constantly having to read the situation around them. So I thought that was a really fascinating explanation as to why they're actually very, very good at reading people because, everything that I've learned, everything that I've read, everything that I've studied about narcissism says that it happens sometime in the narcissist's childhood. So at some point in their lives, they didn't get the love or support or care that they needed, and they determined that the world is a bad place, that they had to survive, and the only way that they could do that is through getting the narcissistic supply that they need to feed that ego. And that's just, anything that feeds their ego, and it's a black hole. You make deposits into it and never comes back out. So, the relationship always feels very unsatisfying with them because you're really not ever getting your emotional needs met. And that's because they really do not have the ability to meet your emotional needs. They're not even meeting their own. So you can't get something from someone that they don't even have for themselves. And so that's what's really going on with them and why they are really, really good at reading people. So I think that they're very masters at manipulating. They're very good at that. And so I think it's more of, and this is just my speculation, I think it's more that they have a skill at manipulating than more so than they're so smart. Now, some of them actually probably have high IQs, some of them don't, but that you can have low or high or middle average IQ narcissist, at any level. But I think that they are certainly masters at manipulating. And that's why I always talk about ethically manipulating the manipulator and creating that leverage and that strategy that you need in order to get what you want out of negotiating with a narcissist. And that's what I teach you how to do. So as far as whether or not they're smart, stupid, clever, whatever, the other thing that is really important to understand about narcissists is they do end up self-destructing. They do oftentimes collapse. And if you want to know more about what a narcissist collapse looks like, it's not pretty. Make sure you check out my video on what happens when a narcissist collapses. And they do end up self-destructing. They do end up, when they start to get desperate, they start doing things that aren't as smart. They start making mistakes. They start, going into their rages and having their, attacking and getting worse. And I often say that they do get worse before they get better. It gets worse when you're dealing with them. And when you're starting to create your strategy and surround them, what I teach you how to do is actually surround them. in a silent fashion where they don't even know that it's happening until they kind of wake up and realize that they're surrounded or that they're backed into a corner. So what I teach you how to do is actually do that. Surround them so that they feel like they have no other place to go. And you do that by creating a super strong strategy and invincible leverage. So that's what's the most important thing to understand when you're negotiating with them. And if you are so ready to win against the narcissist, give me a win in the comments. So when you're dealing with them, sometimes they just seem dumb because they don't understand how to have compassion for another human being. You know, they're not that great oftentimes at understanding, you know, how to express emotion. I mean, sometimes I look at narcissists and I think, you know, you'd actually be better served if you would at least pretend like you care a little bit, because then the other person feels a little bit heard, a little bit like they are valued, and would be more willing to give in a little bit. But, you know, sometimes they kind of seem dumb when they don't know how to act in an emotional setting. So, you know, they're really, really smart in a lot of ways, and they're really, really smart and cunning and clever at how they are able to get people to do things, and how they're able to control people and get you to believe things. I mean, you know, gaslighting and things like that. And, you know, you're looking at evidence right in front of your face of certain things, and you question it and you go, well, maybe, you know, maybe they're right. Maybe their explanation is okay. You know, they're very good at manipulating what it is that is being said, heard, or done, and coming up with an immediate explanation for things because they've been doing it for so long. You know, there's a book called Outliers that I read a long time ago by Malcolm Gladwell that talks about how you know, people need 10,000 hours of anything in order to achieve mastery at it. Well, they have way more than 10,000 hours. They've been doing this for years. I mean, since they were children. So they are really good at coming up with a quick explanation about something, or massaging the facts that you kind of go, well, I guess, okay. I mean, you know, the example that comes to my mind is in the movie Dirty John, or that story about the man who was dating this woman, and he was a severely malignant narcissist, and he told her that he was a doctor, and he would wear his scrubs, and he would leave the house and go wherever he would go, and he'd come home and he was wearing the scrubs. And then her daughter found his diploma, and it turned out he was a nurse of some sort, a nurse anesthetist, I think, or something like that. And so when he was confronted with it, he said, well, I am a doctor. I have a doctorate. It's basically a doctor level of education. And so, you know, I guess she didn't really like the explanation, but she kind of bought it, and she went with that. And you know, he knew exactly what he was trying to say that he was, and, you know, but when confronted with it, he had an immediate explanation for it. And I've seen that happen in court sometimes too, you know, where I've had a case where, you know, I was asking the husband on, you know, cross-examination about his bank statements, and, you know, how come you didn't put this bank account on this particular financial affidavit? Oh, I don't have that account anymore, it doesn't exist. And then 10 minutes later, he's referencing that account again, and oh, you know, he's got some explanation for it right away. Well, I forgot about it, or something like that. And you think, well, you just forgot about it from 10 minutes ago. But, you know, and a lot of times they do that kind of thing, and you see people believing them. And it's really, really frustrating sometimes if you feel like the judge is believing them. Like, how come you didn't see that they just lied? Why didn't you just notice that? And those are the kinds of things that can be really frustrating, especially when you're dealing with a narcissist in any kind of a litigation or negotiation situation. And that's why it's really, really important to understand these concepts. If you're trying to negotiate with a narcissist and you don't understand the concepts, or you don't understand how a narcissist thinks, especially in negotiation, then you're going to be dead in the water. Because when it comes time to negotiate with you, or any kind of discard phase when you're saying goodbye, the narcissist feels like they need to destroy you. And if you want to know more about that, check out my video on why the narcissist needs to destroy you to leave you. But that's what happens at the end of the relationship. And so when you're going to negotiate with them, sometimes it feels like they're really, really smart, but oftentimes they're actually really, really dumb too. And so just understanding that and knowing that you're actually the stronger one for sure. You know, I've often said they didn't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attached themselves because you have so much value, because they knew they could get a lot of supply out of you. They're not attaching themselves to anybody that they don't think that they can get a good amount of supply from. So, you know, the key here is that you're no longer going to be a source of supply for this narcissist. They're going to have to get it from somewhere. Let them go get it from someone else. It doesn't have to be you.
You're going to know 4 things that narcissists actually care about. Yeah, there's actually 4. I'm going to give you the number 1 thing that narcissists actually care about at the end. We're going to go from number 4 to number 1. Yeah, there's actually 4 things that they actually care about. They're all wrapped up in narcissistic supply. Supply is anything that feeds their ego. So supply is the really kind of the one thing that they're all kind of after, and that's, you know, their food, their lifeblood, their oxygen. They're like kind of going after that one thing all the time. They crave that in order to feel good about themselves. It's like that external thing. There's almost like a black hole inside of them that can never be filled, and you might want to fill it for them, and they want you to fill it too. And so what happens is you're left feeling totally and utterly depleted, yet they're still starving in a lot of ways. So, but there's different forms of narcissistic supply. All right. And that's what I'm going to go over here. So we're going to go from number 4 all the way up to number 1. All right. So number 4 is really themselves. At the end of the day, they really just care about themselves. I mean, they may sit there and tell you they love you, or they care about you, or if it's a business partner, even as a family member, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's almost like somebody who is in full-on survival mode all the time, or almost like somebody who has like a really bad toothache, or they're really in pain or something. They may want to care about you, but they can't, because all they can do is see their own pain or feel their own thing that's going on. I mean, they just can't right now. That's why they really just don't have empathy or care for somebody else, because they just can't at that moment. So number 1 is they just only care about themselves. Number 2, or if we're working our way backwards, number 4, and we're going to number 3, is their stuff, their possessions, their things, which, by the way, you are one of. You are a possession. So they care about you in the sense that you are a possession to them. You're just like almost like a jar on a shelf. And, you know, they want to kind of take you down and use whatever supply they can get out of you, if they still can. That's why they kind of move on to a better form. If, you know, there's not much left that they can get out of you, or they pick the bones off the carcass or the meat off the bones. And if there's nothing left, they go to get another source. Possessions is number two, that their stuff, their things, don't touch my things and thing, I mean, they hoard things. They hoard whatever they can. They hoard money. And I have a whole video on why narcissists hoard money. Definitely check that out. But they hoard things. They're very scarcity minded. They have a very scarcity mentality, not an abundance mentality at all. Number three, or number two, if we're working our way backwards, 4, 3, 2, we're working our way up to number one, is power. Power is something that they actually care about, very much so. Control, power, their kingdom, especially the ones that are very successful. They have big kingdoms and they will protect their little kingdoms, and they don't really go out of their realm of their kingdom that often because they want to stick within the kingdom that they have built. And that's why they're so driven to success, to have and create kingdoms, because they want to make sure that they create a kingdom that they can control. So having power, having that control over people, and they degrade people, they debase people, they do that sort of thing, they diminish people, in order to maintain that power, to maintain that control. So that's number two, if we're working our way up to number one, which we are. And it is so time for you to slay. Slay is the name of my program. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. And it is time for you to slay. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. It is time to slay. It is time to slay. Put that in the comments right now. Time to slay. We are working our way up to number one. The number one thing that narcissists actually care about: their image, how they look. That's everything to them. They will protect and defend that at any cost. Any cost. That's the only thing they really, really care about. How they look to the world, how they look to their new form of supply, how they look to the best form of supply, how they look to people that they respect. Image is absolutely everything to a narcissist. Everything. They're literally obsessed with their image, having the right friends, the best houses, the best cars, most prestigious jobs, all of that sort of thing is absolutely the most important thing to a narcissist. Image, number one. 5 traits of extremely toxic people. I've seen them myself. I've seen them punch walls. I've seen them do all kinds of crazy things, and I can spot them a mile away. And I want you to be able to spot them a mile away. So make sure you watch all the way till the end, because I'm going to be giving you each one of them, and I'm going to save the best one till the end. All right. So number 5 trait of extremely toxic people is they never take responsibility for their actions. It's always project and deflect. Project and deflect. It's always someone else's fault, right? It's always someone else. It's never their fault. And boy, have I seen this. They're so good at making it someone else's fault, making sure that someone else gets to take the blame. And, this is something you definitely see a lot with narcissists, especially when they get caught in lies. And I definitely have a video on that. What happens when you catch a narcissist in a lie? They project and deflect. It's someone else's fault, and they never take responsibility for their actions. And part of the reason why you see narcissists never take responsibility for their actions is because they have that fragile inner sense of self, that fragile sense of inner child, inner self, which is like if they take responsibility somehow for themselves, then it takes away from who they are. Then it takes away from, somehow they fall apart. Somehow they don't survive. Somehow there's like that hollow inner self, and they literally become unglued. They literally become triggered. That inner sense of self is so fragile that they have to push it off on other people. They don't feel whole, they don't feel complete. And so that's why they never take responsibility for their actions. That's the first trait of extremely toxic people. So if you have one of those people around you that just never takes responsibility, then run for the hills. Number 4 is people who are very critical, always making you wrong, always making you feel like you're small, always making you feel like you are to blame for their problems. It's always you. You are the problem. You're the one. It's never their fault. It's never them. They don't have to ever take responsibility for anything that they do, and you're the one that triggers them. You're the one who has the problem. They're very critical, extremely judgmental of everything around them. They don't like anyone. If that's how they are, there's something very wrong. But they're always making you feel small, you feel bad. And if you're around them and you are constantly feeling small and bad, then you know that they're probably extremely toxic. You want to be around people that when you walk away from them, you feel lighter, you feel better. They're fanning your flames. You feel like, I just want to be around that person more because they make me feel really great every time I'm around them. All right. So that's number 4. Number 3 is a person who is always making themselves out to be a victim. That's the third type of person who's extremely toxic. Have you ever been around this type of a person? They're just constantly a victim. They're constantly, everything is woe is me. Everything is bad. No matter how much it seems like their life is great, they're just always a victim. Covert narcissists are really, really great at that. And if you want to know more about covert narcissists, I definitely have a video about covert narcissists, about especially covert narcissism in relationships, and you should definitely check that out. All right. So that's number 3. And if you guys have seen this so far, give me a totally in the comments. So that's number 3. Number 2, this is where the person is just always talking bad about other people. This is that one who's just like constantly talking bad about other people behind their backs. And you just know they're definitely talking bad about you too. I mean, if they're talking bad about other people to you, they're talking bad about you when they're with other people too. I mean, that's just how people are. And so that's just a trait of an extremely toxic person. People who feel good about people don't do that. And I go back to the 4 agreements, which is never to take anything personally. This is a book which I highly recommend. It's one of my top reads, and it's 4 agreements that you make with yourself. One of the agreements is to never take anything personally, because people treat other people the way they feel about themselves, good or bad. So if somebody treats other people badly, it's because they feel bad about themselves. Hurt people, right? So if somebody feels good about themselves, then they treat other people well. If somebody feels like crap about themselves, then they treat other people poorly. And so people who talk badly about other people, it's just somebody who just feels toxic inside. So they just are toxic person in general. And that's just not the type of person that you really want to spend your time with. There's an old saying that says, if you really want to know where you are in life, take a look around and see who the top 5 people are in your life. And that'll tell you where you are in life and, what kinds of a quality of where you are in life. So you want to make sure that the top people in your life are super quality people. I always say defend your light with your life and make sure that the people who are closest to you are people who you really want to defend your spirit and defend your light. All right. So that's number 2. And number 1, the number 1 most toxic person in the world, people who lie, people who don't have integrity, right? Liars, 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 pants on fire. People who don't have integrity. Without integrity, nothing works. People who lie. And those narcissists, they are pathological liars. They lie about everything. They lie about things they don't even need to lie about, which is the crazy thing to me. And that's where you end up getting your leverage, by the way. That's where you end up being able to create your patterns, create your strategy, all that good stuff for your cases, for your negotiations. One thing is that they have a public persona that is so nice and so kind, and they're like humble and sometimes, charming and wonderful. And I know the ones that I dealt with, they were actually female. And a lot of times people don't even think that covert narcissists can be female or narcissists at all can be female. I know for me, I thought narcissists were really misogynistic, boastful, bragging, the type that would come into a restaurant, demand the best tables, were treating women poorly, tell everybody how great they are. That's not necessarily what a narcissist is. Just because you say something good about yourself, that doesn't make you a narcissist, A narcissist can be humble on the surface. This is a person who publicly can be wonderful, but privately is pure hell for the person who they're dealing with. And that is what a covert is, covertly. Only the people who are dealing with this person really knows what it's like. And that's why it is so awful to deal with them. That's one of the reasons why they're a covert narcissist. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that they're passive aggressive. What that means is that, they might say that they're going to pick something up for you from the store because they're going there anyway. And they just accidentally forget your thing. Oh, I meant to get that. I forgot. Passive aggressive. They say that they're going to complete a task at work that is supposed to be for you, and it just doesn't ever get done. And then you have to kind of keep nagging them about it. That is passive aggressive. There's always this plausible deniability around them where they can kind of go, I thought I did that. Oh, I didn't mean that for you. That is always something that you're dealing with a covert narcissist. Number 3 is they use guilt a lot of times to manipulate people. It's okay. I'm fine. I'll just sit over here by myself. I've done so much for you. I go out of my way to do so many things for everybody else, but no one does anything for me. But that's all right. I'll just sit over here by myself, that kind of thing. So they use guilt to manipulate people to do things for them. So that's the third thing. Number 4 is that they are very easily slighted. So, you're constantly kind of tiptoeing around their emotions. You never really know how they're going to take something because they're very fragile. Just the slightest of things can make their feelings be hurt, or they're going to set them off. They're going to be upset about it, or they're going to feel like they're being criticized, or they're going to feel like they're being judged about something. So, you're constantly having to worry about how they're going to take something because they're extremely easily slighted. That's something that's very typical of a covert narcissist. Sometimes they're called the vulnerable narcissist because of that. If this is resonating with you guys so far, give me an amen in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have seen this, give me examples of the kinds of things that you guys have seen with this, or people that you've seen, that you've dealt with. I'd love to know what you all have seen and dealt with your covert narcissist so far. And by the way, if you are dealing with this, make sure that you are joined my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, because you do need to have the right kind of support. I have a sponsor on this channel, which is BetterHelp, and you can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung to get that help and support that you need as well. We receive commissions. It doesn't cost you any extra. We just want you to have help and support. Okay, so the last one is definitely the one that is always the case with covert narcissists, and that is that they always play the victim. Always poor me. It's always life isn't fair. And let me tell you, with the covert narcissists that I have seen in my life, they will play the victim to the point they will ruin their own relationships with even people close to them, if necessary, to continue looking like the victim, because it's so important for them to remain being the victim so that they can get sympathy from people. I find it very sad that that's how they get supply. They get supply from being the victim. A lot of times they won't apologize to people because they've got this underlying rage. There's underlying boiling jealousy, rage that's always going on. But it's this anger, rage, jealousy thing happening. But for me, I'm the victim, and they're very good at reversing conversations when you try to call them out on things, at turning it around so that they're the victim because of that guilt thing and the whole thing, so that they're once again the victim. I mean, you can never win with them. If you're dealing with a covert narcissist, it ain't good. And they will suck the life out of you. They will drain you to your core. I've been there. It's time for you to spot narcissists in less than a minute flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the signs that you are dealing with a narcissist. The first one is that they need to be the center of attention. Now, there's a number of different ways that they can show up as being the center of attention. It's not always, hey, look at me, I'm the best, I'm the brightest, boasting, bragging. I used to think that that was how they always showed up. I was wrong. Believe me, when I was dealing with a covert narcissist, which was a female business partner that I had, and I've been dealing with narcissists for a long time, but it wasn't until I was a target of one that I really realized this and really started to be on this mission to help you. And that's when I started this YouTube channel, that I really realized how horrible and heinous narcissists could be. They can show up as wanting the center of attention by presenting themselves as the victim, as poor me. Oh, life is so awful. And, and then they manipulate people in that way. And that's actually way more toxic than the look how great I am type of narcissist. The type that shows themselves to be this person wronged me, or I can never get my way, or the type that guilts people into doing things. They're actually, I think, far worse, far stealthier, really a smarter type of narcissist. I don't want to say smarter, but a savvier type of narcissist than the boasting one that everybody kind of knows and can spot more readily. So you got to be very careful about that other type of narcissist that also wants that attention and has that need to be that center of attention, but goes about it in a different type of way. So you can spot them right away as well, but they're going about trying to be the center of attention in a different way. They're presenting themselves as the victim. But again, they have this need to constantly be the center of attention. They're just putting themselves as the center of attention in a different way. They can also put themselves as the center of attention by immediately putting themselves the center of a crisis. Somebody is sick. Somebody is hurt. They know to put themselves there right away. But you got to look to see, is this person only showing up if there's sort of like a photo op or the right people are watching, they're not necessarily helping if the right people aren't watching. That's the kind of thing that I've noticed about covert narcissists as well. They have this need to be the center of attention. Are they not helping the people in the hospital or the cancer patient or whatever if they don't think they're going to get credit for it, that sort of thing? I know that sounds horrible, but that's what really happens with these narcissists, okay? So that's number one. And by the way, if you are negotiating with a narcissist in any sort of situation and you're trying to figure out how to do it and you're not really sure what to do, I do have a free Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet, which you can get at crushmydeal.com. And I encourage you to get it. It's a free ebook, crushmydeal.com. The second thing that you can do, that you can spot, the second way that you can spot a narcissist is, they're always going to be presenting as super charming, super persuasive, especially when they want to get something. They really know how to mirror you. They know how to look the part of charming, persuasive. They're usually well-groomed, good-looking, well-spoken, and they usually know how to read whoever it is that they want to get something from, especially at the beginning of a relationship. They definitely know how to turn that on. But even as the relationship goes on, as that bloom is coming off the rose, if you're starting to come on to them and you're starting to realize, oh, you know what, maybe I don't even want to be in this relationship anymore, they start to go, oh, well, let me snap this person back into my life. Then they pull you back in by turning that charm back on, by being persuasive again, by saying the things that you want to hear. And it's also known as future faking or something like that. And even after the relationship is over, they can come back in and turn that charm back on sometimes, which is sometimes known as hoovering. They know how to turn on that persuasiveness, turn on that charm. No one is more charming or more persuasive than narcissists. Okay, so they're incredibly, incredibly persuasive and charming. So that's the second thing. The next thing is they have a huge, grandiose sense of self-importance. They believe that they're more important than anyone else. Not only do they think that they're more important than anyone else, but they believe that they should be treated more importantly than anyone else. And they believe that they should be treated more specially than anyone else, that they, should be the most special person in the room, that they should have special treatment. And so, this is the person who will go into restaurants and expect the best table or expect the best treatment or expect the best special menu, send the steak back if it's not prepared in exactly the right way. I know for me, like I have been in situations where my husband and I have been with people who, they send food back. I'm not talking about small things, but I'm talking about where they have mistreated wait staff and been talking down to wait staff and treated people in a horrible, horrible way. And I'm telling you, it is embarrassing. I was with another family one time where the wife actually got up and left and demanded that their entire family all leave too, just because water wasn't brought to the table exactly when she wanted it and the way she wanted it, and tried to stiff the family on the wait staff on a bill, and then ended up not tipping the wait staff. I mean, it was horrible and it was horribly embarrassing. But this is the kind of thing that they do. They expect special treatment. They expect to be treated uniquely. They expect to be catered upon, that sort of thing. And if they're not, then they take this as actual criticism sometimes, and they are extremely sensitive to criticism. So that's the next one. The next one is that they are extremely sensitive to criticism, overly sensitive to criticism, and they cannot handle being disagreed with in any way, shape, or form. Even if you're not disagreeing with them, sometimes you are actually just having your own opinion about something. But if they see this as you disagreeing with them, then it becomes this massive, huge fight. It can be embarrassing at dinner tables. It can be embarrassing at parties. And, they can actually cause issues at holidays, issues at birthdays, family parties, family reunions, even if you didn't even mean anything. They're very, very easily slighted. You can be saying, I wasn't even saying anything about you. You can be saying, let's just agree to disagree. I was not even looking your direction. But a lot of times they can't handle that. This is where you see incidents of road rage or whatever, because you see these people who are highly, highly sensitive. And what's going on is that narcissistic injury is being triggered. It causes this narcissistic rage to come flying out. And there it is, right? And so if you see that, you've spotted a narcissist. You've spotted that narcissist in 1 minute or less, right? And this is one of those signs that you are dealing with a narcissist. So we are heading down through the list, and we still have many more signs that you are dealing with a narcissist. Okay, the next one is that they need constant admiration and affirmations from others. It's like you can't say anything nice about anyone else, by the way. Like if you could say something nice about the dog. Oh, the dog did a good job today in pet school. Did I do a good job? Did I do a good job today? Like they want constant affirmations, constant admiration. What about me? Did I do a good job? You have to constantly be feeding that ego, that black hole that's going on inside of them. It's exhausting, quite frankly, to be around these people, because you have to almost be constantly be thinking about their ego and how are they going to be taking things and how are they going to be handling it if you do this or if you do that. And this is what you mean about this walking on eggshell thing, because if I talk to this person, how are they going to perceive this? Or if I show up in this car, how are they going to perceive that? Every single thing is going to have to be filtered through how is this person going to be perceiving this? Because you have to be constantly thinking about this person's ego, right? But their need for affirmations and admiration is just constant. I remember one time I actually interviewed a secretary for a legal position, a legal secretary, and she flat out told me in the interview, I need lots of admiration. I need lots of words of affirmation. And I remember thinking, oh, thank you for telling me straight up front, because I don't want to have to be like on the hook for thinking about this all the time. Not that I don't give lots of praise to people, but I was like concerned that what if I don't give enough and this woman was going to be thinking that I wasn't giving enough, and it was like too much pressure for me. So I didn't end up hiring her just for that reason. Okay, so the next one is they're often manipulative, using, exploiting, they take advantage of others. They want to use people. They're opportunists. These people see relationships as transactional. If I do something for you, what are you going to do for me? I'm not doing anything for you unless you're going to do something for me. It's just everything is back and forth. It's a using type of a relationship. I'm going to use you for whatever I can get out of you. And I'm assuming you're using me too. I'm manipulating you. You're going to manipulate me. It's a very mistrusting, distrusting type of world. And that's how they are in this world. Right? It's difficult to be in a relationship with them. And they lack empathy. They don't actually really care about people because they're just constantly in this scarcity mode. I don't have enough to give. And so I can't care about you because I'm in survival mode all the time. I don't have enough to think about. It's like this pain. It's like if I'm starving, I can't think about you. So that's why they don't have any empathy. This is what it is that you're dealing with when you're dealing with a narcissist. And they're jealous. They're jealous all the time because of that. They feel like everybody else has more. And so they're in this world of envy constantly and looking to see if somebody else has more than they do. And if they do, then they're jealous of that, because they believe that they should be better than everyone else, right? And if you've seen any of these so far, give me a totally in the comments. Just write totally in the comments. I know that you guys have. The last few that I have are that they are arrogant. They can be very, very arrogant, extremely haughty, very difficult to deal with. Oftentimes they can be impulsive. They don't think about what it is that they're doing because all they can think about is right in front of their face. So what happens is that the people around them end up having to clean up their messes. You end up being the responsible ones because they're just thinking about right in front of their face, and they don't think about long-term issues, long-term problems. And so they end up being very, very irresponsible types of people. And they're preoccupied with these fantasies of success and these fantasies of what's going to happen and power and brilliance or beauty or ideal love a lot of times. And what I see in negotiations, by the way, is they will actually take themselves down to take you down. And that's the thing that you don't even realize, by the way. I think a lot of times people are so afraid of narcissists, but they don't realize that they're actually horrible negotiators for the long term because they don't think about long term. They're actually very impulsive. They just think about, how can I get this person right now? They only think in terms of black and white, good or bad. So they just want to get the person who is, they think they perceive to be the enemy, so they want to take them down before they take you down, or whatever, you could take them down or whatever, because now you're public enemy number one. And so they don't think strategically long term the way they should a lot of times. Those are some of the ways that you can spot a narcissist in 1 minute. And that's why my SLAY methodology actually works better on narcissists than the way they negotiate, because my SLAY methodology is strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you. You are actually better at being a negotiator against them than they are for themselves.
So there's one particular trait that everybody overlooks, but there are several traits that everybody knows about with narcissists. So I'm going to just go through the ones that everybody knows about, the ones that they think of when they think of narcissists, and then at the end, I'm going to let you know what the one is that everybody overlooks when they look at traits of narcissism. Number one, shamelessness. So narcissists tend to be openly shameless. Like, they'll just go and do whatever they want. I mean, there's just certain things that narcissists do that I just am so surprised by. I knew a narcissist one time who would just come into our law office and just come right behind the desk and come right into one of our offices and not even ask. And, I find myself with narcissists sometimes thinking, wow, I would never do that. I mean, there's just certain things that I would never do that narcissists end up doing. So, but they're just completely shameless in that way. So another trait of narcissism is entitlement. So they feel entitled to anything. They think that they should have the best seat in the house, the best restaurant, the best this, the best that. They should have the best spot in a show or something. If they're in a show, whatever it is, they should be the best. They should have the best. And, even if they're not entitled to it, even if it's not something that they earned or something that they're even qualified for, they don't care about that. It's just like they should have it. So entitlement and also shamelessness, they're kind of like two little hands that fit together, but slightly different, but definitely they're shameless and they feel entitled. So the next one is magical thinking. This is where they just keep going. They don't even look at the path of destruction that they've created. They don't really care. They just imagine the world and look at the world and interact with the world in the way that they want to see it. So it can really definitely be difficult when you're negotiating with a narcissist in that sense. And because, you give an offer, they come back with a counter offer, you go back with an offer that incorporates some of the things that they've already, agreed to, and now all of a sudden they say they never agreed to that, and that sort of thing. It's all this magical thinking. It's part of the gaslighting, and it's just how they think. They just live in their own form of reality. Another trait that they have is envy. They're often very jealous of people. They're very jealous of other people's accomplishments. They can't really congratulate people or be happy for people. They feel like life isn't fair. How come they got it? I should have it. They don't really like when somebody else is getting attention that they feel like they should have. They're just very, very jealous. Sometimes they're jealous of people that they don't even know. Like, they'll be watching something on TV see and think, oh, why does that person have that? And why does, who do they think they are? I mean, they're just jealous and envious in all different facets, including, of course, in their own personal relationships. It comes from this place of lack. They are not abundance thinkers. They are scarcity thinkers. So, if anybody has anything else, they don't think that, oh, I could do that too, or I could have that too, or how great for them. That's their thing. That's something that's wonderful for them. It has nothing to do with me. They definitely do not think that way. It's very much a jealous, envious, small-minded way of thinking. And if you are so ready to move on and create a new life, give me a "so ready" in the comments. Okay, so the next one, and we're leading up to the one that most people overlook, is exploitation. They're users. They like to use people. Every single person is looked upon as, what can I use? What can I get? Why am I even going to be talking to you at all? They're always sizing people up to see if they are going to be a good form of supply for them. And if you want to know more about narcissistic supply, check out my video on narcissistic supply. But supply is anything that feeds their ego. And you definitely are going to be looked upon by a narcissist in terms of what can you do for them. It's never reciprocated, by the way. It's like, just to be in their space at all, you better be doing something for them. And if you want something out of them, then you better be ready to reciprocate like 100,000-fold. And even that's not good enough. Like, you're supposed to do it all for them. And the next one that you normally hear about is lack of boundaries. And that is, narcissists just do whatever they think they want. They just go wherever they want. They look through people's stuff. They will open people's mail. They will go into people's closets. They will show up places that they're not supposed to show up. They have no boundaries because they feel entitled. And, it all kind of gels together into a toxic stew of yuck. But that's one of the things that they also have, is no boundaries. But the last one is the one that's most overlooked, and that is that narcissists have no sense of self. They feel very small inside. That's the not so secret. They feel inside like nothing. They have a very fragile sense of self. So all of those other traits, the ones that people see, the ones that people identify with the most, the ones that they use, that psychologists and psychiatrists use to determine if somebody's actually narcissistic, are actually all things that they layer on so that they can hide the fact that they have no sense of self themselves. And so they make it look like the Wizard of Oz, and they build all this stuff around them to hide the fact that they are feeble, small, scared, and that you are actually the stronger one. And that's the thing that I really want you to understand when you're negotiating with them. You actually, the biggest scam in the world is that they have you thinking that you're the one who's weaker. They're actually the weaker ones.
So let's talk about how to have a powerful mindset against narcissists, because honestly, when you're negotiating with them, or when you're dealing with them, or managing them, or trying to deal with any kind of difficult personalities, that's like the most difficult thing. I get a lot of correspondence from people, and some of the most satisfying correspondence that I get from people is when people are like, okay, I won my negotiation, I got the results that I wanted, but the most surprising thing that happened to me is that my fear disappeared. But that's actually the most important thing that happens, because you cannot get the results you want, and you cannot manage difficult people or toxic personalities without that. And that's actually the thing that you have to lead with, because they smell blood in the water. And that's why they know that they can kind of target you and know that they can control you, because they look for people who are empaths. They look for people who are kind of the bleeding hearts, who have some sort of, wounds themselves, who have some sort of, really want to help people, who really feel like I can save you, I can help you. And to them, that doesn't mean, oh, I can help you, I can save you, I can. To them, that means, ooh, sap. To them, that means, I can take advantage of you. You think, oh, they're going to appreciate me. They're going to, wow, this person saved me. They're going to love me for it. They're going to see all that I did for them. And that ain't going to happen. It's going to end up being a black hole. You're going to end up feeling used. You're going to end up feeling abused. It's going to end up being this cycle where you're going to give, give, give. They're going to take, take, take. And it's going to keep going, going, going. And here's like the really kind of thing that's also sort of ironic is, like, a lot of times people are like, I'm afraid to like become strong against the narcissist because I'm afraid of the backlash. I'm afraid of the things that they're going to do to me. I'm afraid of like what's going to happen because they're going to be worse. Well, yeah, they probably will be worse initially because, you've conditioned them, they've conditioned you, you've kind of conditioned each other in a lot of ways. I mean, a lot of times you have a long history with each other, and that you've both kind of created a conditioning of each other. I mean, you've both sort of taught each other what you will tolerate or how the relationship is going to go. And there's been some expectations that have been set on both sides as a result. And so creating a powerful mindset means you're also going to have to create some new boundaries, new goals, new way of thinking for yourself as well. So, all right. So number 5, I'm going to kind of work backwards with your secrets here. 5 secrets to having a powerful mindset against narcissists. So that's kind of like my preface to the whole thing here. But let's work backwards with our secrets. So number 5 is start expecting them to behave like narcissists. I know that sounds easy, but it's not all that easy sometimes. I mean, you can still end up in the trap of like, can you believe they did this? I can't believe they did that. Oh my gosh. I mean, I remember having this conversation with a client one time where she had this huge situation with her soon to be ex in the parking lot of the school. And it was like 8:00, 8:30, and she calls me at my office and she was like, can you believe he did this right in front of the students, in front of the teachers? Everybody was there. And I remember saying to her, because she kept saying, can you believe he did? Can you believe? Can you believe? And I remember saying, yes, I can, especially after all you've told me about him. What I can't believe is that you can't believe it. She actually started laughing because she was like, good point. Fair points. Like, yeah, because like, just, yeah, don't be surprised when they act like themselves, right? They just expect them. There they go. There they are acting like their narky selves. Don't be surprised when they just act like themselves. So that's secret number 5. So now we're going to go to secret number 4. Secret number 4 is to be super specific about what it is that you want. So having a powerful mindset means, what is it that you want? Do you want a certain outcome? Do you want a certain vision? What is the goal of, the negotiation that you want? Is it, a certain parenting plan? If it's a business negotiation, what is the outcome? Sometimes people forget that. It seems so simple, but people often forget. Is it, if you're trying to end a business relationship, even if it's not a negotiation, What would be your perfect outcome? Is it to just go your own separate ways? Do you want to keep the business? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to dissolve it? What is it that you want? Do you want to keep the clients? Do you not? Be super specific. Write it down. Maybe write it down and post it everywhere. What goals do you want for your life, for your business, for your career? Watch my interview with Bob Proctor, by the way, which is amazing. It not only, by the way, changed lives of many people who watched that interview, it changed my own life. It was like one of my favorite interviews that I've absolutely ever done. So definitely go check that out. So that's secret number 2. Be super specific. You are placing orders to the universe. By the way, you're placing orders to the universe even when you say things you don't necessarily want. So, a lot of people say, I don't have enough money. 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 And I wonder why the universe doesn't bring them more money. Come on, be careful with what you say. Your words are very powerful. So if you want more money, be careful about what you say. Okay. So that's secret number 4. Secret number 3 is stay laser focused and put your emotions into it. See yourself in your outcome. Feel it. Emotion plus motion equals your outcome. Like, really, really feel it. The movie The Secret, they were talking about like feeling yourself in the car, like you feel your hands on the steering wheel, you feel the hair, the wind in your hair, like really feel it. You have to really feel like what it's like. And like you can't just like write it down on a piece of paper. You got to really, really feel the emotion of what it is that you want, because that vibrational energy is super, super important. Okay, so if you're doing it, give me an I'm doing it in the comments right now. I'm doing it. I feel the power. I got the emotion. All right, number 2, watch your words. No weak language. No, I'm trying, I'm hoping, I might, maybe, I'm sorry. None of that. No weak language, people. No, I'm doing, I am Yoda. We're Yoda here. Remember Yoda? Do or do not. There is no try. Yes, love Yoda. All right. And secret number 1. Secret number 1. This is my own little secret. This is for me as well as for you. I got to do this myself too. Number 1 for myself is I don't leave my thoughts unsupervised. At least for me, my thoughts cannot be left unsupervised. I don't know about you, but I have to, like, if I'm, walking the dog or, doing things where my thoughts are left to their own devices, they don't usually go into the good neighborhoods. They usually end up in the bad neighborhoods. So I usually end up listening to podcasts, books, Audible books, things that will fill my head with the things that I want. So, control your input. That helps to control your output. So that's what I do. Don't leave your thoughts unsupervised. That is secret number 1 to having a super powerful mindset.
Let's talk about this narcissist. They come across so powerful, so all-knowing, like everything is going their way. And it's so frustrating sometimes. And it's so, it makes you sick. Like you feel nauseous inside, and you really start to feel and believe and know in your heart, like, oh my gosh, I can never win. I can never get past this. They always seem to get away with everything. Why do they always seem to get away with everything? Oh my goodness, I have had so many people say to me, how are they getting away with this constantly? And it just seems like it never ends. Like, how are you ever going to get past that? Like, you're just constantly on the defensive. And it's so hard to even imagine what it would be like to actually go on the offensive. And it seems really kind of like you're putting on somebody else's clothes or a coat or something. Like, this doesn't seem right to go on the offensive. A lot of times when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, it probably means that you're an empath or an empathic person, a very caring person. You feel very deeply. And that's what attracted the narcissist to you in the first place. And you, as the empath, were attracted to the narcissist in the first place because you saw something within them that you could potentially help them or love them back to health and all of that. That's what we empaths want to do. And if you want to know more about the relationship between the narcissist and the empath, check out my video on exactly that. There is like a symbiotic relationship between the narcissist and the empath. So, all of this, it means that when it comes time to actually fighting back against that narcissist who feels so much more powerful than you, it's really, really hard. And sometimes it can feel impossible, but it's actually so not impossible. The one thing I really want you to understand is that a narcissist is just a huge bully who's actually super scared inside. And the big secret is that you are actually the more powerful one, and they don't want you to know that. So they go to great lengths to try to make you think that you're the one who's less powerful, that they are the ones who are all-knowing and all-powerful. And in fact, they even use manipulation tactics and all kinds of verbiage, and they do all sorts of things to make you feel like you are the weaker one. So they'll even say things like, no one else thinks the way you do, and everybody else thinks this and this and this. And so you really start to feel isolated. And if you want to know more about narcissist favorite sayings, check out my video on the narcissist favorite sayings. But you're basically put in this position to just feel like they never will lose, no matter what. And so, you sometimes feel like giving up. But I'm here to tell you that it's never okay to give up. Don't give in. Don't give up. These people are basically terrorists, and if you fight back against them, you will see that they will eventually come unglued, that they will eventually collapse, that they will eventually give in. And if you want to know more about what happens when a narcissist collapses, you should definitely check out my video on what happens when a narcissist collapses. So, how do you fight back against a narcissist when they seem so much more powerful? Well, the first thing that you're going to do is check in your mindset. What is your mindset? Is your mindset something that says, I can be powerful against this narcissist? Or is it saying, I'm never going to win against this narcissist? And so if you want to know more about your mindset, check out my video on power thinking when it comes to narcissists. Mainly, what you want to do is just start to believe that you can be powerful against the narcissist. Understand that I've helped millions of people get the results that they want, and I can help you as well. But you can also help you. Just watch these videos or do the things that I'm telling you to do. You can do it. So start to believe it, because you can go, wait a minute, all these other people have done it in the worst of situations. They've turned it around, yet you can start to turn that ship around. 80% of a negotiation is won before you even walk into a room, and 50% is your mindset. So number one is just believing that you can do it. So number one is your mindset. Number two is keeping your emotions in check. Just really, when you are negotiating with that person who seems so much more powerful, they are going to try to trigger you. They are going to say things that they know will upset you. They know how to push your buttons, especially if it's in a divorce situation or even a business partner situation where you've actually had a chance to really get to know this person, they know what your weak spots are. They know how to get to you. So they know that if they say a certain thing, it's going to trigger you. It's going to take you off of your game. Expect that. And don't allow them to penetrate. Don't allow them to get to you, especially in front of them. I mean, hey, if you need to go cry or scream in the shower afterwards, scream in your pillow, yell to your therapist, whoever you need to, fine. But when you are in that situation with that narcissist, you say things like, I can see that that's how you feel. Like, in other words, you leave it all over on their side of the table. It's not coming over here. And, it's almost like there's this glass shield around you, and it's just like the bullets are just pelting off and heading back over their direction. All right. So when it happens, you just, I hear what you're saying. I know that's what you believe, something like that. You constantly are saying things that will actually just allow you to disarm them and also you to not be affected. I also have a video called Phrases to Disarm a Narcissist. You can check that out if you'd like as well. So that's number 2. And I really, really want you to believe that you are powerful. And if you believe that you can be powerful, I want you to put in the comments, I can be powerful. Put that in there right now. I can be powerful. This is the start. Mindset, keeping your emotions in check. The third thing that you can do is actually really, really do your research. You're going to research your side. You're going to research the other side. You're going to do as much as you can to have everything prepared. Understand exactly and anticipate what it is that they're going to say. And then that way you'll have a response for it. The more that you can prepare, the less concerned you're going to be that they're more powerful. The more that you have your arguments ready to go, the less powerful they will be, especially if you're anticipating what the other person is going to say. And the fourth thing that you can do is use languaging that makes you seem more powerful. In other words, you can say things like, I know that we are both on the same page when it comes to this. But here is one issue that I want to present to you, and I anticipate that this is what your argument is going to be, and here's what my argument is. So you use powerful language, and you can also use powerful body language. So that's going to be number 5. Use powerful body language. Power language is putting your arm draped over the chair, grabbing your chin, steepling. These are 3 different ways that you look more powerful.